All right. Good morning. I will now call to order the Monday, October 21st, 2024 Town Council meeting. If you would, please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. Up first on the agenda is the approval of the October 7th, 2024 Town Council meeting memoranda. A copy has been posted. Are there any questions from councilors?
I had a correction. On page 13 at the bottom, there's twice it says there is, and it's supposed to be bears.
I'm sorry, what is it supposed to be?
Bears? Like
Bears.
B-A-R.
Okay.
That's it. Otherwise, I move to approve.
I got a first from Councilor Sampson,
Second?
second from Councilor McElderry. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, same sign. Motion passes 7 in favor, 0 opposed. Up next is the approval of the September 2024 payroll claims. Are there any questions from councilors? Otherwise, I would entertain a motion.
Make a motion to approve the payroll claims.
Second.
First from Councilor Norris, second from Councilor Sampson. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, same sign. Motion passes 7 in favor, 0 opposed. Up next is the approval of the October 21st, 2024 claims. If there are no questions from councilors, I would entertain a motion.
Move to approve?
First from Councilor McElderry, second from Councilor Stein. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Those opposed, same sign. Motion passes 7 in favor, 0 opposed. All right, moving along here. Up next on the agenda, we have a consideration of a resolution recognizing the Zionsville girls golf team and Taylor Snively on their state championship. This is Resolution 2024-16. Thank you for being here today. If you would, we'll just have the team come up here. I'll go down and read the resolution, and we've got we're going to get a formal resolution once we get signatures from all the counselors, so then we'll get you guys a real, nice looking piece there. And I will say before we jump into this, we did communicate with the school on behalf of the boys state championship team as well, so we didn't forget that, right? But it is a little bit more difficult to get those guys back in the same room right now, so we're going to work on something for them as well from the council. So if you guys wouldn't mind coming up here, and we'll read this into record. And you'll have to bear with us. There's a lot of whereases in this and all kinds of stuff. So, all right, resolution of the Town Council of the Town of Zionsville, Indiana, recognizing the Zionsville girls golf team and Taylor Snively on their state championships. Whereas on October 5th, 2024, the Zionsville Community High School girls varsity golf team won the Indiana State Athletic Association 52nd Annual State Championship at Prairie View Golf Club in Carmel, Indiana. The Zionsville golf team shot a 627, 5 strokes ahead of the runner-up Noblesville to claim the state championship. And this is the Zionsville golf team's second state championship and first since 2018. The Zionsville golf team consists of Caitlin, and if I mess up your name, I'm sorry, I should have gone through this before and with each one of you. Caitlin Adler, Paige Henney, Avery Lewis, Taylor Snively, and Amaya Wade. Whereas along with team success of the Zionsville girls golf team, Zionsville freshman Taylor Snively also claimed the individual title, making her only the third freshman in the 52-year history of the IHSAA finals to claim such honors. Snively is the first individual champion to play for the team since 1999. Whereas the Zionsville golf team is coached by Maggie Nobe, a former player of the Zionsville girls golf team that won his first state championship in 2018. This was Maggie's 5th season as a head coach of the team, first state championship title as head coach. And whereas the success of the Zionsville girls golf team was a result of a season-long collaborative effort involving players, coaches, parents, the town of Zionsville, Boone County, Indiana, strives to support and celebrate the accomplishments of its citizens and its community. And the student athletes of Zionsville girls golf team have devoted countless hours this season to balancing their schoolwork, sports commitment, and should be commended for their dedication to both academics and athletics. Whereas the town would like to use this resolution as an opportunity to recognize the Zionsville girls golf team in winning the IHSA state championship. Now therefore be it resolved by the Town Council of Zionsville, Indiana, that the town of Zionsville, Boone County, Indiana recognizes and congratulates the Zionsville Community High School's varsity girls golf team in winning the Indiana High School Athletic Association 52nd Annual State Championship. And the town also recognizes and congratulates Taylor Snively in winning the individual state title at the IHSA's Girls Golf State Championship, becoming only the third freshman to ever accomplish such a feat. Congratulations. All right, so thank you for your patience on that. That resolution does call for a motion. Are there any comments or questions from counselors? Otherwise, I would entertain a motion.
Sorry that we chose a morning meeting to make you come. Kind of feels a little bit like a punishment maybe, but welcome back to school. I move that we approve the resolution to recognize the Zionsville girls golf team and Taylor Snively on their state championship.
Second.
We got a first from Counselor Sampson, a second from Vice President Burke. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion passes 7 in favor, 0 opposed. Congratulations. And again, we'll get you a more formal, official copy that you guys can certainly have on record. So, also, if you guys don't want to stick around for the rest of the meeting, you don't have to do that. All right, up next on the agenda is a request to speak on agenda items, and we have 6 folks to speak. So for those of you that haven't gone through request to speak, you'll have 3 minutes. I'll call your name up, and if you would just come to the lectern up here, and then I'll put a timer. So when you get to 2 minutes, I'll just kind of wave you down so you know you have 1 minute left, and when you're done with your 3 minutes, we'll move on to the next person. So we'll just take these in order that they were submitted. The first one up, we have Kent Ezra. And if you would, when you come up, just speak your name into the microphone and your address, and I'll start your time after you're done.
Good morning. My name is Ken Ezra. I live at 654 Spring Hills Drive here in Zionsville. My wife Liz and I own Cobblestone at 160 South Main Street. A couple of things I wanted to say first. If you guys don't already know this, I've had the pleasure of being your appointee to the RDC for multiple years now, and Liz and I want to thank you for that, because the opportunity to give back to Zionsville, we really appreciate that, so enjoy that very much. Secondly, kind of an item along there, last time I think President Plunkett was talking about restrooms downtown, and the RDC has been in negotiations with a downtown business owner who owns a building downtown to possibly pay for some restrooms that would be available all the time. That's still in negotiations. But having said that, the EDA downtown, the Zionsville EDA, does have capital funds that can go for restrooms. So there are EDA funds that can be used, and I think maybe the mayor is working on some things towards that also. So yes, downtown, we would like to have some restrooms, public restrooms if possible. I'm here today to speak in favor of DORA. That is kind of why we're here today. DORA is a new item in the state of Indiana. Several communities around us already have or are in the process of getting DORAs: Carmel, Westfield, Noblesville, Lafayette. There are several places, probably other than that, that are going to have them also. Carmel's Dora is probably going to be the largest in the state. It encompasses a huge area. So as far as all of the positives or negatives, I believe that the Dora is a great tool in the toolbox for EDA. It's not necessarily a driver, but it certainly is something that the town of Zionsville can use in a positive sense. There has been some questions about it raising insurance funds, and I will tell you that my insurance agent who lives in Lafayette and knows about the Dora there says that that is not an issue currently. I think that the other thing is that it really can be a thing where a business can either opt in or opt out, either retail or for a restaurant like us. We have, as restaurant owners, if we have a liquor license, we have that responsibility to serve alcohol or not serve alcohol to someone. So it doesn't increase or our representatives, doesn't increase our responsibility in that sense. It kind of is, it is what it is. It really is a good tool. I think you guys should approve it. It's going to be a good thing for Zionsville and a tool that we can use. Thank you.
Thanks, Ken.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ken.
All right. Turn that up a little bit louder. All right, up next we have Angie McCloskey.
Angie McCloskey. I live at 10355 Wildwood Drive. We've lived in Zionsville for over 40 years, and my business is at 31 East Pine Street. I appreciate the opportunity to speak today in favor of the Dora. I was unable to attend the meeting 2 weeks ago, but I was watching it from live from home. Excuse me, I'm very nervous. This is not me. I would like to address a couple of concerns that the council members raised about Dora. Mr. Mountain, you raised an important question about the restrooms. I did know what was happening, but restrooms are a problem now. Does not affect Dora. Dora just amplifies that we do need bathrooms downtown. Also, there was concern about people refilling their Dora cup with their own beverages from their car. But the reality is, once somebody purchases a drink, we cannot control what they do next. If someone's going to be that cheap and open their trunk and pour a beer into their container, we can't stop that. And how do we know they're not already carrying around a Stanley cup with a beverage in it currently? Mrs. Sampson mentioned the risk of people walking into traffic. Currently, we don't have adequate crosswalks, and people already cross the downtown street between cars. And we dart across First Street when we can't find parking. So we already are putting ourselves in danger by crossing a street. We are only highlighting a problem. Dora is not creating this problem. I listened to the comments that seemed to suggest Dora would turn Zionsville into a party town, but Zionsville isn't compared to Franklin, Nashville, or Memphis, Tennessee, as Mr. White mentioned. These towns are college towns, professional football team towns, and a very active nightlife. Have you been at our downtown street at 9:30 at night? At 10 o'clock, we all joke that the streets roll up. It's not too far from the truth. Can we be sure that the Dora was the sole reason for the increased insurance that Mr. White experienced? Could it be other circumstances, the nightlife, the riots? I don't know when that happened, but maybe there was other circumstances to the Dora being passed. Zionsville is a quiet, family-friendly town. We are not a party town. Keep in mind, this isn't an all-or-nothing proposal. Even if few restaurants choose to participate, it would still make an impact. For my business, this could save me time and money on event permits for serving adult beverages, like on Ladies' Night and Bar Crawl. If the restaurants could handle the beverage, I can focus on what I can promote my business as, and I'll let the restaurants do that. Please do not base your decisions on the what-if scenarios, the worst-case fears, or concerns about insurance increase. Let's focus on what Dora can offer. Give our community the freedom to stroll through the downtown while waiting for a table, enjoy a leisurely walk after dinner, or make their shopping experience more enjoyable. This would also create opportunities for the downtown business to host special events like Ladies' Nights, combining dining, shopping, in a more relaxed atmosphere. You need to trust that our community knows how to drink responsibly, find a restroom when needed, and cross the streets safely. Additionally, trust our restaurants that they know how to serve properly.
Thank you, Angie. All right, up next, we have Marcus White.
Thank you, council members. My name is Marcus White. I live at 380 West Hawthorne, and I own the Zionsville Public House at 10615 Zionsville Road. I remain opposed to the DORA for all the reasons I detailed in the meeting 2 weeks ago. I'm simply here to request that the current DORA boundaries as proposed cut off at 106th Street, excluding my business from the DORA.
Okay, up next, we have Erica Carpenter.
Good morning, and thank you for the opportunity to speak this morning. My name is Erica Carpenter. I live at 26 Cedar Crest. Brad, we could have carpooled this morning. And my business is 530 Home, located at 205 South Main Street in Zionsville. I think you guys already have my email. You know I'm in support of this. Since the last meeting, I was able to do a little research, and I wanted to tell you kind of my experience as a 12-year Main Street business owner. One thing I'm always amazed by is the overwhelming support of our local businesses by residents and visitors alike. I am constantly grateful to hear, and I just heard this one last week, thank you for having your store here, and I love your little town, from visitors. What better way for us to thank those people in turn than to augment what we already offer in downtown Zionsville? I have attempted to do research, as I mentioned, on the potential economic impact by reaching out to 4 different communities in Ohio, the municipality, their chambers of commerce, or their Main Street organizations, depending on where the DORA was listed for their specific town. None of them had numbers as far as actual data for economic impact, which that's something I think if this passes, we can definitely work on so that we can show how it positively economically impacts our community. But all did indicate a positive for the restaurants daily and for retail during special events. As the DORA comes online, I will consider extending our hours during the summer and holiday months. On the subject of special events, and this is specifically as something that was discussed during the last meeting, I would encourage us not to close the street unless we are doing a special event. The work that goes into shutting down even one block, which is setting up the no parking signs, barricades, ensuring that cars are moved from the area, moving barricades again. Can you tell I've moved a few barricades in my day? And then reopening the street is cumbersome and unnecessary unless we are bringing hundreds or thousands of people to the area like we do for street dance, obviously with the farmers market and other things. And I hate to mention the loss of parking on the potential for service nights if we would close the street. I also wanted to speak about this as my role with a founding board member of Main Street Zionsville. I think one of the things that we really want to focus on is encouraging people to come see what our town has to offer, and we want to also build community. As I've shared with some of you, as we apply to become a Main Street, we have to do work plans. And one of the things we'd like to do is kind of relaunch Night on the Bricks, which was an effort during 2020 to dine on the street to increase business during COVID. Some restaurants still were inhibited slightly depending on the type of liquor license that they have, but with the DORA, it would be available for all of the designees. And I think establishing a DORA is another tool to help us promote Zionsville as a destination. So in conclusion, I request that you please approve the designated outdoor refreshment area. Let's continue to create a place people want to be. Thank you.
Thank you. Up next, we have Jeff Seipel. Seipel. It's kind of hard to read here, Jeff. Jeff Seipel, sorry.
Good morning. Thanks for letting me take the time today, and thank you all for serving our community. I'm very proud and grateful to live in Zionsville, and I always will be. So thank you very much, and I know a lot of other residents feel the same way. I would like to express to the council that I'm in complete favor of the DORA. I think the added vibrancy and the potential to kickstart an absolute organic growth to our community is just too much. It's just too high. I'd also like to address concerns of added expenses to small business owners. I did speak to both of my insurance carriers. One is Erie Insurance, the other is Indiana State Farm. Both knew of the DORA and recited it almost verbatim to what was in the last meeting. Both had no issues with increased premiums. Actually, from Indiana State Farm, the Donnelly agency, he said the zip code reports that come in annually, nowadays those are really just for home and auto. You live in an area that has a lot of fender benders. He cited Manhattan. Your premiums are going to be a little bit higher. If there's a lot of petty theft and crime, then your homeowners and auto is going to be a little bit higher. But for commercial insurance, they don't do that. Both also cited that we live in Zionsville, and as I alluded to, I'm proud of our community, and people I know are as well. I think we take care of our community, and I don't think we have to worry about a ton of claims out in the public because of this. Like both gentlemen expressed that we are in Zionsville and that we take care of our community, I think just the vibrancy and what it can do to spark a little bit of growth down the road. As far as where can people go, I heard that topic a couple of weeks ago. They can come to my place. They can go to other restaurants. There's other stores. They can go to 530 Home. And one of them said what they have found over time is that there's actually sometimes less drinking because there's more movement. You're in with your family, you get something, you leave, you go to a store, somebody sees something in a window, and so there's not necessarily more drinking in every instance. I think this town is similar to that. As far as other added expenses, cups, stickers, straws, lids, we as business owners choose this life, and we have to work around it. Anything that changes in our community, and that's what we signed up for. I look at those expenses as paid for by extra revenue or the potential thereof. So I'm in favor. Thank you.
Okay. And then last request to speak is Josh Garrett.
Good morning. Josh Garrett, 760 Wood Court. I just wanted to talk a little bit in favor of DORA and my perspective on it, especially from a historical standpoint. Zionsville has never really been a leader in new types of initiatives, and that is not a criticism of current or past councils. That is not a criticism of current or past administrations. I think it's actually a very prudent approach to these types of things. And as you hear about all the other communities that have already implemented DORA, I think that's a really good sign that is going successfully for them and will go well for us. As I've sort of thought about, in my past on town council and things I saw, one of the things that was most striking in terms of similarities was the golf cart ordinance that we implemented that was led by President Plunkett. There were a lot of what-if scenarios related to safety, costs, enforcement, but there was a lot of demand from our residents for this, and there were a lot of other communities that had already done it. And so we implemented a similar ordinance based on other communities' successes, and none of those worst-case scenarios ever came through. In fact, it's been such a success. We've expanded it because other parts of the community wanted access to that. And I think you will find this with DORA that starts, within the core Main Street, but perhaps south of 106th Street may want that. They may not, but it's the best type of legislation I think you can implement because you are not forcing businesses to participate. You are just giving them a toolbox that allows them to increase their business. If it doesn't work, they can self-select out. And because it's an ordinance, if it doesn't work, you guys have the opportunity to amend it or also remove it as well. So you're not writing something in stone
We're just seeing, based on the successes of other communities, if we can have the same success, which I very much think that we'll be able to do. So I hope you give it a chance, and I appreciate your time this early in the morning.
Thanks, Josh.
Thank you.
All right. Up next on the agenda is the mayor administration update. We have Mayor Stair with us this morning.
Morning, councilors.
Morning.
Welcome back from fall break. Town is springing back to life this morning. It's my first time not subject to the spring break, fall break schedule, so it's interesting to see how things clear out during the time that fall break occurs. We got a lot done last week. That's the good news. I wanted to start the administration update this morning with a look at the SBOA audit. The State Board of Accounts has substantially finished its audit of our finances in 2022 and 2023. The auditors are back in town hall this morning for exit interviews with key stakeholders, which include Cindy, President Plunkett, and myself. That will take place later this day, in fact, this morning after this meeting. The next step is that they will issue their initial report. We will have a chance to respond to that before the final report is registered with the state. Now, it would be premature to talk about the audit results, but I want the council and the public to know that we are definitely on a better path with our finances. The main focus of my administration continues to be the restoration of the S&P AA+ credit rating that we lost a few years ago, and I will continue to keep the council and the public informed as that process continues. And as part of that effort, we wanted to bring you today the most updated financial information that we have. I'm going to ask Cindy Poore to come up here and give us a progress report of where we are budget-wise as of September 30th, which was the end of the third quarter.
Good morning.
Good morning.
So I'll start with our summary, which is what I present every time. The expenditures that I'm getting ready to present to you, we've removed payroll, health, and FSA funds. These are just pass-through funds, so they really don't pertain to budget and true expenditures. The base for the budget numbers that I give you, it's based on the budget, the additional appropriations and encumbrances combined, and the ARPA transactions have also been removed. So the town's miscellaneous revenue, this is basically everything except for property taxes. To date, we've received 101% of what we budgeted for 2024. This is mostly due to the supplemental lit that was received. And as you'll see below, in the first, second, and third quarters, those are the numbers itemized of what we've received, with the total amount received to date. $25,586,922, which here again is slightly above what we have budgeted for 2024. Our total expense right now, our total expense to budget is at 60%. We've spent a little over $35 million out of a $59 million budget. I will say that I know 60% through the third quarter may sound a little low, but as I was just talking to Chief Van Gorder, some of the equipment, a little over $2 million worth of equipment that was in budget. Unfortunately, it takes a couple years to get this equipment built, and so some of the money that we budgeted for this year will actually end up being encumbered, and we'll have to carry that until the equipment is ready. So that that is, a little bit of portion of the reason why we're only at 60%. This here shows where we're at as far as per department. And honestly, really nothing stands out as far as being out of the ordinary. Just depending on the department's type of expenses, makes a difference on what part of the year they land. So sometimes if we have large projects and there's design and so forth that's involved, by the time that work's done, it's later in the year when it gets paid. So really, we're on track. Anybody have any questions?
Cindy, is there a way, or have you looked at adding back the encumbered expenses to see where we are had they hit?
I can do that for you.
I'm just curious, because if, adding those in, if we're at 90%, then that's kind of a scary story. If it puts us at 70%, not so much. Just
Well,
curious.
and those numbers are added into what part of the budget, so those are, but I can do it both ways if you
Yeah,
want to
just
see
kind
that.
of a if.
Sure.
Thank you.
Yeah.
You get it.
Cindy, we were just talking about the parks and the DPW being under 50% spent through this point of the year, and you mentioned that there's some bigger things coming. It's still a little bit questions whether or not the money was budgeted appropriately, so we're just wondering, Brad and I were thinking, like, what's still coming that would push those numbers up to 100%?
Well, I would need the departments to actually speak to that, but I do know that a lot of times with DPW, they deal with a lot of large projects. And so, by the time you go through the whole process, it's towards the end of the year when things are paid. But as far as specifics, I would need Jared and Lance to speak on that. I can't speak on that.
Thanks.
Morning, councilors. Jared Logsdon, Superintendent of Parks and Rec. One of the largest ticket items that hasn't been spent yet is the rehabilitation of the Turkey Foot Bridge. We are expecting bids next month and award, so we'll get that under contract.
Pretty much what Jared just said. Our paving program is right now in full swing. Those bills usually lag 30, 45 days from the project. So you see a lot of our bills come in the third quarter as we wrap up projects. Plus, we have two projects that are actually planned, pathway projects, planned for construction next year. So they're in the budget this year. We'll be letting those projects later this year, and then it'll come bring those funds to 2025.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Do you have any other anticipated miscellaneous expenses, revenue coming? Is this about when we've earned all that we're going to earn? I know we're already above. I just wondered if
Right.
it
Well,
continues to come
we
in.
get the local income tax and the food and beverage is a monthly revenue that we receive, so we'll still be getting more of that in. Fees, fee-based items, we'll be getting that in, so we'll still be receiving more income in this fourth quarter.
Okay.
And then plus, well, miscellaneous, it's not miscellaneous, but then we'll get our second installment settlement for property taxes at the end of the year.
Right. It's always good to be over what you budgeted.
Yes, it
and
is.
I wondered how much higher we were going.
Thanks,
Okay.
Cindy.
Thank you.
Yeah, finances really has been a major focus for us this year, and I have been on Cindy's case almost daily, and she has done a great job. So we are fortunate to have her in her town, and she really is a rock star. And I appreciate everything she's done and will do in the future. The next thing I have is, you may have heard about this. This is an election year, and Election Day is upon us. Town Hall is a polling place once again, and that includes 5 early voting dates. You see them on your screen right now. Now, 2 that are not in bold type are weekend dates, so I'm not as concerned about those. But the days that are going to affect Town Hall are in bold type. So I just want everybody to know that on these days, because polling starts at 1 o'clock, we will be suspending all town business at noon. And given the heightened scrutiny around elections this year, we will strictly enforce all protocols, and those include during early voting, town employees may not interact with voters in any way, shape, or form. If they are working on those days, it'll be in the back of the building where they will not be visible to the voting public, or they will work from home. And everybody needs to know that these are not off days, so if employees do take time off, it'll be considered PTO. And again, polls will be open from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. on Election Day, November 5th. That is a paid day off for all town employees, except our police officers, of course, who will be working with our partners at the state, the Boone County Sheriff's Office, and neighboring police departments to make sure our elections are safe and secure. And I want everybody to know we have a well-thought-out, detailed security plan in place to make sure that happens. So Chief Spears and his team have been on top of that as we've been getting closer to Election Day. And finally this morning, public restrooms. President Plunkett mentioned it at the end of the last meeting, but I think everybody on the council, everybody in administration, and just about everyone who's one of our constituents understands that we need public restrooms in the village. Now, the previous council committed $10,000 in ARPA money last year to the Chamber of Commerce for a downtown bathroom study. The result is an 18-page report that confirms that people would like downtown restrooms. So we're happy about that. But I think that the reason we want to do this is simple. We want to support local businesses, enhance the visitor experience, and also for community health and well-being. So the Chamber released this. I'm going to make sure I send all of you a copy later today. We're going to post it on our website for the public to take a look at too. So here's what we are going to do to meet the need. As Kent Ezra mentioned, we are working with a downtown property owner to temporarily open up restrooms in an existing building for public use, but there are some concerns with that. They include liability, whether the facilities are able to handle the increased use, and also the impact on current tenants in that building. We are working through those issues because this would be our first choice. We've also gotten some quotes on bringing in a trailer with nicer restrooms to provide a temporary solution, but that may be a bit cost prohibitive, especially in the cold months. Between Thanksgiving and the end of the year, it would cost us a little over $4,000, in part because operating in the winter adds to the cost. So we would want to take a look at that. But another possibility is for the town to buy a restroom trailer for use over the next few years until a permanent facility is built. So we would need to work through how we could service it and keep it open during the cold months if we did that. Long term, we would put public restrooms in a parking structure or a public plaza area as those are developed, but we will continue working on a temporary solution to what we know is a concern to the council as well as all of our constituents, and we would work toward getting something in place by the spring of 2025 to coincide with the beginning of the DORA if you were to approve that today. And that's all I have. Does anybody have any questions?
Yeah, quick question. The existing building that you referenced, is it, you don't have to tell us which one it is, but is it on Main Street or is it off of Main Street?
It is Main Street adjacent. No, it is not on Main Street, but it's just half a block away.
So
from Main Street.
signage, I'm assuming, would be something we would be
Yes.
considering as well?
Yes.
Okay. All right,
Yes.
thank you.
And as far as the idea of the town buying a trailer, there is a show coming up, a trade show coming up in February for facilities like that. It's called the WET Show, Water and Wastewater, Environmentally Transport and something. But it's coming up in Indianapolis, and that would give us the opportunity to look at our possibilities there. And we could either service it ourselves using our employees or find a contractor to service it for us. But I think long-term, that may be the best solution. There'll be some upfront costs, but then we would have the trailer that we could use and then maybe sell it in a couple of years, maybe keep it for special events. But I think we could find the funding to do that, and I would, come forth with a proposal at that time.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Up next on the agenda is the first item of old business, which is a consideration of an ordinance establishing an outdoor refreshment area, or the DORA. This is ordinance 2024-25. This is a final reading. We have Deputy Mayor Justin Hage and Park Superintendent Jared Logston both here to present. Good morning.
Sorry, 1 second here. Yeah, Joe. Thank you. Good morning, Council. My name is Justin Hage, and I serve as the Deputy Mayor here in Zionsville. I'm very proud to do so. I first wanted to start by thanking members of the public and the council for issues that were raised and concerns from the last meeting.
Hey, Justin, I'm sorry. Could you get closer to the microphone? Sorry about that.
Yeah, no, of course. Thank you. My goal this morning really is to talk about some of those concerns and those questions and answer some of those things that were left unanswered last meeting. First of all, I want to really acknowledge that analyzing risk is very important, and I think what we need to do is look at that risk, figure out ways to mitigate that risk, understand what those unintended consequences could be, figure out ways to avoid those, and once we have really found that balance and understand those risks and understand those unintended consequences, figure out a way to move forward. If that balance shifts, we can always change course based on conditions on the ground. In terms of creating a downtown outdoor refreshment area or a door here in Zionsville, there are multiple benefits for our citizens, visitors, and business owners. They include increased foot traffic for shops, boutiques, art galleries throughout the Dora, which will hopefully result in more sales, enhancement of a downtown experience, and increase in vibrancy throughout the day and evening, a boost to existing special events and the opportunity to create new events, a new experience is being offered in communities across Indiana to provide to visitors our very walkable downtown business district. And just as a specific data point, there are 24 Doras that have been approved in 23 municipalities. There are 2 in Fort Wayne, and there are many that are being created in other cities, as was mentioned, Westfield, Carmel, and others. This program will really help to relax red tape, promote small businesses, and provide additional vitality. Like all new things, there are definitely risks, and I will address those in a moment, but I believe the potential benefits very much outweigh the risks. One key area for clarification is the businesses that will be included. I know there was some lack of clarity last time, so what we did this time was made sure that every business that was listed in the ordinance handed in that ATC form. And so we have all of those forms that are for all of the businesses that are listed in the ordinance. I will just make 2 clarifications. One, that when we first sent out the packet earlier in the week last week, we had not yet received the form from Zionsville Pizzeria, but we do have that form. And then additionally, Graham Rahal and his businesses are very interested in participating, but they have not yet actually been issued a permit, and that is pending right now. And once they issue the permit, they'll be able to go through the process of submitting a form to the town, which then gets submitted to the ATC. We can figure out what the timing is in terms of when we do our submission to the state as well. Speaking of that form, I also wanted to clarify the process in terms of what would happen after today. If the council were to approve this ordinance this morning, the town would then collect all the materials, submit our application, and along with that application goes all of those signed ATC forms. There would also be a map showing where designated retail permittees are located within the Dora and where temporary vendors are permitted to operate. The ATC will then approve the Dora, a refreshment area designation for each retailer permittee whose application was submitted by the municipality would then be approved by the ATC. So that's the process after today. One other issue that I think was discussed last time that's important is the geographic area. I got a chance to speak with Mr. White earlier this week, and as he confirmed this morning, his desire is to not have his business in the area south of 106th Street included, and that is what we had in the ordinance last time, and I think what will also be considered this morning. As for concerns, I want to just go through those one by one. I think it's important both for the council and for the public to understand those risks and how I think they can be mitigated and how they balance out. So I think one that was raised last time, and I think Councilor Melton had some specific questions about it, was around public safety. So I'd like to ask Captain Samuelson to come up and speak to some feedback we've received from other police departments in some adjacent states. There really hasn't been Doras in Indiana long enough to, I think, really to have much data, but we do have some discussions with some police departments here in Indiana, but then also some adjacent states as well.
Good morning. Morning. So for ZPD's end of this, we did what we usually do with things that we haven't experienced yet. We reached out to our partners. We spoke with 6 peers in the Midwest region. 2 of those are in Indiana, Fort Wayne and Noblesville. 1 being Saugatuck, Michigan, and then 3 in Ohio. 2 of those in suburban Columbus, Ohio, and 1 in suburban Cincinnati. So the populations ranged anywhere from 873 in Saugatuck, which changes significantly with tourism, all the way up to 250,000 in Fort Wayne. Most of them kind of fell in the middle, closer to Zionsville's population, 45,000. They've had Doras in place in this group anywhere from 7 months to 7 years. Some have multiple Doras. Some have several neighbors who have had Doras and have learned from those experiences as well. The consensus between all 6, no issues related to alcohol or disorder, no uptick in those issues, nothing more than what they were experiencing anyway. No pedestrian safety or public safety issues that they're experiencing that they hadn't before. And then also no needs to increase staff or resources to manage these Doras. One agency in particular, Dublin, Ohio, they did up their staffing initially just to be preemptive,
and then they found there was no need for it, and they eventually walked it back to normal staffing levels. So the document's in the packet. That's a real quick summary of what we learned. I just want to keep this brief, but happy to expand on any of it, answer any questions if you have them. All right.
I just want to say thank you for doing that research and giving us the public safety version of that. It's important as we do something new and we bring something new on that is in its infancy in the state of Indiana, that we try to find out some of those informations, those impacts, either from your standpoint or even the economic impacts or the insurance impacts. And I think we brought up a lot of valid points during this conversation and kind of extending this out a little bit, and I really appreciate you digging into it, and I appreciate Chief Spears taking my request to do that as well.
Very welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Captain Samuelson. One other issue that was raised was the hours for non-permitted businesses. I think it's an important issue. There was concern raised that many of our shops, boutiques, art galleries, et cetera, are not open past 5 o'clock. But I think one of the goals of this DORA is to increase foot traffic in the downtown business district, which might lead to those businesses to extend their hours, which Ms. Carpenter, I think, referenced, which will hopefully lead to increased sales. But I would also say that the DORA is for increased foot traffic during the day and has other benefits beyond just those for shops and boutiques in the evening. The mayor referenced public restrooms, and I think we heard the message loud and clear, and our goal would be very much to have a public restroom solution in place by the time that the DORA was implemented, which, just as a side note, we think that in terms of the ATC having to approve the DORA, working out signage, working on some other details, that a launch in the spring is most prudent for the DORA if it were to be approved this morning. On the issue of liability that was discussed last time, I think it's an important issue to discuss, but at the same time, I think anything in terms of what we would think around insurance premium increases would be purely speculative. We have heard from a couple of different businesses this morning that spoke to their brokers and carriers. I also think that based on some conversations I've had, there definitely isn't evidence of anything like an increase that Mr. White referenced at the last meeting. I think we can all agree that risk can obviously lead to increases in premium, but I also would say that it seems logical that many of those premium increases would be based primarily on claims as opposed to just purely the implementation of a policy like this. And again, if businesses do experience increases that are just not palatable, then we can always change course. To better understand, I think I had some great requests as I spoke to some folks this week around what has been the experience in other places that have had these for a number of years. I tried to do my best, but it was a little tricky to get hard data, but I did something similar to what Ms. Carpenter did in terms of reaching out to some other municipalities that have had DORAs for a while in terms of both that premium increase question and the economic benefit question. I just want to read a couple of different excerpts from some towns that I was able to reach out to. This is from Hilliard, Ohio, from their Parks and Rec director, saying our DORA was originally created to combat issues created by COVID epidemic and the challenges our businesses face due to the state regulations dealing with the epidemic. It worked so well, we expanded the hours. We love our DORA. While I do not have before and after hard statistics, it has brought a vibrancy to our downtown area that did not exist before. And then just a couple of ones that I think were relevant, also spoke to the city of Dublin, and they said, generally we've heard very positive reviews and no or very few complaints or concerns. It's hard to quantify the economic impact, but I just checked in with our tourism bureau, which reports that they have received positive feedback from local businesses and visitors. Everyone loves it, and it has a substantial economic generator for downtown Dublin. None of us have heard anything about an increase in insurance premiums. Hilliard, Ohio again, this is from a restaurant owner. I don't believe our insurance has been affected by DORA. He does say that he bought his business right around COVID time, so he's not sure if that necessarily factored in, but he had not heard it, and as reflected by some of these others, they hadn't heard the concern either. The downtown manager for the city of Hilliard, Ohio, I personally have never heard of our businesses mentioning their insurance premiums increased based on being part of DORA. City manager from Mason, Ohio, since we created DORA, it's been very well received by businesses and residents. I'm not aware of any businesses experiencing any measurable increase in insurance premiums due to participating in the DORA. I don't have direct knowledge of the premium activity, but I'm pretty certain that I would have been made aware if anyone had experienced any large increases. The bars and restaurants have been very well pleased with the DORA and often expressed to me that in general terms. So again, that was, I think, pretty resounding feedback as it relates to both of those issues. Again, not necessarily quantitative data, but I think good feedback from those other locations. As for the days of operation, I think that was discussed last time as well. I think there was a discussion around Friday, Saturday, Sunday potentially. I would acknowledge those are the days where the Dora may be utilized the most, but it would also lead to missed opportunities, perhaps like 3-day weekends or our Lincoln Park concert series on Wednesdays. I would also say that Dora, one of its purposes is really to be an economic driver, and for that reason, it should be available Monday through Thursday when there is opportunities to, for example, have businesses band together on a Tuesday night, to have a night where they will stay open later, or other types of events like that throughout the week. Additionally, operating only 3 days a week has the potential to create a lack of clarity for both residents, visitors, staff at permitted businesses, and law enforcement. And then I'll briefly cover a couple of other issues that we had discussed. I think the closing of the streets was mentioned, and I'm not sure if there's necessarily broad support for that. Now, that being said, I do think there could be some value in doing so, one Thursday a month or something to that effect that might be great for businesses to be able to have that opportunity to dine on the street like we have in the past. As for hours, I think similar to the discussion on days, I think a broader set of hours provides more opportunities for increased foot traffic throughout the day and the evening. And doing some research, Hilliard, Ohio again, Columbus suburb, about 37,000 residents. They established their door in 2017. Until 2019, it was only effective on Thursdays or Saturdays in conjunction with live music at a downtown park. 2020, they expanded the door to include hours on 4 days, Wednesdays through Saturdays, and eventually added Sundays. And in 2021, they expanded to 7 days per week, but it was only June through October, and then in 2022, they made it available year-round. So I think that's a similar size city to ours. They had strong feedback, and they increased the hours and the days. And then the last issue that I think is important to discuss and clarify was the question about whether Dora cups are allowed into permitted businesses. And just to be crystal clear, I'll read directly from the statute. It says a person may consume an alcoholic beverage purchased from a designated permittee or vendor anywhere within the refreshment area boundaries, subject to the right of any retail permittee or business within the refreshment area to refuse to allow individuals to enter the licensed premises or business with an alcoholic beverage. So, in other words, it's allowed, but at the same time, the business owner is allowed to deny access for that any individual to bring a cup in. No, I think there's many permitted businesses that will probably deny that access and completely understand, but at the same time, I did have a conversation with Scott Barnes, who owns The Friendly, and he has a little bit of a more unique situation in which he wants to be able to allow folks to buy a Dora beverage, sit outside his establishment while they wait for a table, say 15, 20 minutes, the table's ready, they haven't completed drinking that beverage, they bring it back in. And what he could do is certainly allow that, and if he wants to just be a little bit more clear that it was the beverage that he sold to that individual, mark on the cup with a sticker, with a Sharpie, with a wristband to indicate, yes, I sold this drink to Mr. Smith. Mr. Smith came back into the establishment 20 minutes later when his table was ready. So this issue has definitely been made more explicit within the ordinance. Just to run down a couple other changes too, there was a qualifier added to the ordinance as to what it takes to be listed in the ordinance, namely that you've submitted the ATC form. We revised the list of permittees. We added an outdoor dining exception, and then there was an addition of a statement declaring the town's control over sidewalks, common areas, and public roads and streets. In conclusion, I think the administration believes that the benefits outweigh the risks for the creation of a Dora here in Zionsville, and it will be of great value to residents, visitors, and business owners alike. I urge support of the ordinance and happy to take any additional questions.
Justin, I just want to thank you, not unlike what the police department has done. Thank you for reaching out to these communities. I know after the last meeting, I think we all want to do the right thing, and there were just some loose ends, and I thought it was just really helpful to take that extra couple weeks to button everything up. So thank you for doing that. Based on anything that you heard, did you or do you recommend any changes to the current language that's before the council now, or is what's in here everything that you feel like is exactly what should be passed when we consider this? Any amendments?
I would say it's, in its current form, is the best possible option for Zionsville. Again, with the caveat that we make sure that we have the version that is just north of 106th, and then we might have Grammar Hill joining in the very short future, but no, as is, as presented.
Thank you.
Just to clarify that, there is a redlined document that I worked on with the deputy mayor and John Oberlander and Jared. So that is included in the packet. So there are changes that are being recommended. from the last meeting, and I know the deputy mayor went through those. I'm happy to go through them in more detail if the council would like me to, but just to make sure that you've all reviewed the red line version.
So Heather, when we make a motion later, we would just, the amended version would be,
Yes,
that'd be the
exactly.
language, okay.
Yep.
Yes, thank you so much for following up with so many of the businesses. I think that was really appreciated. Just having their chance to consider the concern and follow up with their own insurance providers. And it was great because a lot of people reached back out to me and confirmed that they had been doing their own due diligence as well. The only thing I saw that jumped out from what you presented was that there was in Hillard a pedal car bars clause that they denied. Is that something we would also want to consider so that we don't have a pop-up pedal bar in Zionsville?
I would say I don't think that's necessarily directly related to the DORA. If we had someone that wanted to have such a vehicle, I think we'd have to discuss it, and we'd have to decide if there was an ordinance necessary to explicitly prevent that, if that was the will of the council, but I see that as somewhat of a separate issue. I think it was just mentioned in relation to, you know.
It just got me thinking when I read it on your feedback. I was like, oh, good Lord, that's next. But I really do appreciate all the follow-up you had, and I think the clarifications that happened in the last 2 weeks were very important for people to feel like they were heard and to understand. So thank you, I appreciate that.
You're welcome.
I'll just address the pedal bar, having been on one before with my daughter's birthday. I think our bricks would be a rate limiting factor for a pedal bar. It would be a brutal ride, so I don't anticipate that being an issue.
And a short one.
And a short one, that's what I was thinking.
I have a couple things. One, and you may have said this because there's a lot of things going through my head. Are we able to answer the question, can somebody buy a beverage at Friendly and walk into Zionsville Pizza with that beverage if everybody's a participant? That's the one. I just want to be able to answer the questions if somebody asks.
The answer is yes, if all of the parties approve, and that would be in section 6, we clarified that language, if you take a look at the red line. So we lifted the language directly from state statute with a few modifications to just reference the DORA. So it says a person may consume an alcoholic beverage purchased from a designated permittee or vendor anywhere within the DORA, subject to the right of any designated permittee or vendor or business to refuse to allow individuals to enter the licensed premises or business with an alcoholic beverage. And then we added a second clause that says, nothing herein prohibits a business or establishment, including a designated permittee or vendor or business, from prohibiting open containers of alcoholic beverages to enter its establishment or premises, nor from prohibiting food or beverages purchased from another establishment. So you could definitely take that if the Zionsville Pizzeria in your example said, yes, I'm happy to take a cup into my restaurant, but probably more likely, would be my guess, you'll see businesses saying, hey, you want to sit outside and wait for a table, you can bring your own cup back in. So we wanted to make sure that it was crystal clear that the business owner is really dictating the decision of whether or not to allow that DORA cup back into an establishment. And then we coupled that with some extra language to clarify if you already have an outdoor dining experience. So if I'm at Cobblestone, which I love to sit on your patio, if I'm at Cobblestone, we don't want to limit what they're already doing with their business. So we felt like it was important to lift some new language into the proposed ordinance to say, if you're sitting on a patio and you're serving, or you already have sort of a waiting area, out on your patio, one, that you can continue those activities even if your business is located within the DORA, but two, that you can have a glass cup, because the plastic cups will be the walking cups, and so we didn't want them to have to change their business practices for seated outdoor dining. So we went ahead and lifted that in new section 10 in the DORA as well.
Great. Thank you. And then the second thing, and this is a little uncomfortable. So Mr. White requested to opt out and have the DORA not include his property, in essence.
Correct.
can the friendly do that? You see what I'm saying? So I think we need to think long-term, and while I sure hope Public House is here for decades to come, if they were to change hands and then somebody wanted to opt in, do we have to, what is the process to redraw the boundaries? I guess where I'm going is, if he's going to opt out, then he's defined the relationship with Adora. As town council, thinking bigger than that, do we draw the lines where we want them, so that, you know, in the future, if the restaurant changes hands, he sells it to somebody and they want to opt in, we don't have to, you know, drum all this up again. I'm just suggesting, and I know it's kind of the 11th hour, but I didn't, last time we met, it was still drawn in, and now it's not. So I just throw that out there for discussion. And again, it's not necessarily a hill I'm willing to die on, but I think it's worthy of conversation.
So is the question, is it hard to add on to a continuous part of the DORA? Is it a big process, or is it a simple process?
I think we'd be establishing a new DORA. Like if, so the process allows, or the statute allows for up to 7 DORAs in any community. And so, for example, the deputy mayor mentioned Fort Wayne. I think what they saw is they established one DORA in the downtown area, and then they decided, hey, there's some other businesses over here that would really like to do it. But you're going through a process with the Alcohol Tobacco Commission. So when you are approving this initial DORA, that is what we're submitting for the town. And so we would have to go back and reestablish the DORA and or establish a new DORA to add additional businesses in, to your point. So
Sure.
if you think you want it to be more broad, you could leave it, you know, above 106th Street, but certainly there's a process by which you can go back to the ATC to establish a new DORA. And we tried to also, I know the deputy mayor mentioned this, but it was something that I know Councilor Sampson talked about, which is, you know, are these folks really in or out? And so we clarified the language in Section 7 as well, that when we are working with the permittee, that they've actually submitted the application to the town, so that everybody that we have listed are folks that have affirmatively filled out the application with the right established leader in that business to be able to make that application approval, and then that's what's going to get attached to the ATC. You can always go back and add additional permittees in the DORA as long as they're in the geographic map. So that's the flexibility, but we wanted to clarify that process a little bit, that it wasn't a verbal, hey, I just want to be in, but this, we're actually taking them, attaching them, and we talked to Westville and a few other communities, and that's how they handled it. And candidly, the town had a lot of those already in hand at the last meeting, but we went back through, and Deputy Mayor went back through and made sure every single business had their actual submitted application.
So Heather, if we have, we can add people to, the process to add people to the DORA does not come back to the town council.
It does not. They would just submit their application, and then we would submit it to the ATC.
The town
as
would.
long as they were in the map, or
Yeah.
in the DORA
Yeah, the
area.
town would do that. It has nothing to do with council once
Correct.
it's through here. The other question that I have, specific to these boundaries, if we do cut it off at 106th Street, to Joe's point, we can amend this initial DORA ordinance to allow for a larger map later if we want, or is that, would we just create another DORA and lose one of our 7? Like, can we, since the area is contiguous to the existing map, can we just expand that map later, or does that count for 2 DORAs?
No, I think we would have to go back and establish an additional DORA.
That's a good point, because did
But
we talk to
I mean, I don't know
Fitzgerald?
that people have done that. I mean, it talks about, I don't know that we've had an instance yet in Indiana where someone's gone back and amended their initial map. This is so new. I'm
Right.
trying to rethink through the statute.
I think we'd have to confirm with ATC, but my sense is that since it is contiguous, we would be able to expand the boundaries of this DORA, but I can't say that with certainty. But I think the reason why, for example, they created the two in Fort Wayne is they're not contiguous. One's at Electric Works, one's downtown. They're far apart, or relatively, and there's property in between that didn't want included. So I think we could potentially amend this one, but again, that might be a issue of first instance. We'd have to check with the ATC on how to do that, but.
Yeah, there's a property owner I don't feel like we even checked with if they wanted to be in the map or not between the public house and 106th.
I mean, I think key here too is we're not forcing any permittee to participate, or any vendor or any business. So just if you're located within the map area, you are still making individual business decisions about participation, to your point, Counselor Stein. So to me, that is probably more, the more important piece of this is each business owner, still has their rights as a property owner to decide how they want to participate and.
No, I agree with that. I'm just thinking, I don't even know what the northmost restaurant is that serves alcohol, maybe North High, I don't know. But let's say it was them, and they said, we want the boundary line drawn south of us. Would we do that? I think that'd be short-sighted to do that, because, I mean, I'm in the restaurant business, and I know restaurants turn over, and so I think as a town, we would be wise to make the boundaries what we think they should be, and then people can opt out. But, if I pick up a Dora cup at Bub's, which I've not heard anything from Bub's at all, but if I picked up a cup at Bub's and wanted to walk down to the public house for dinner, I couldn't. I'd have to stop at 106th and stand there until I finished my drink.
Correct. Yeah.
But if the boundaries were drawn, I could walk all the way down, take my time. You see what I'm saying? So I'm just throwing it out there for discussion, because I think it's worthy of contemplating whether or not, as a town, we want the boundaries to be what we want them to be, and then participants can opt in or out, as Heather said. So,
Justin, do you have the other map that goes north or goes south of 106th Street that could be added to the ordinance now or no?
Yes, well, we have it because it was in the first version, and I think we did have a discussion of this potentially happening at this meeting, that you could, in your motion, say, subject to the map from the first version from 6 weeks ago, or 4 weeks ago, I guess now, being included. Second version.
President Plunkett, may I speak?
Yes.
I just want to, again, thank the police department for being so involved in this. And, as a restaurant owner, a father of four myself, this is kind of a conflicting thing to me. And I actually have a lot of respect for all the supporters that came from the business owners. And I appreciate you all coming up and showing up this early in the morning and staying through. And then past President Garrett, thanks for being here as well. I do just want to say this last little bit about this, and it may not influence this council to make a different decision, but in general, and I want to also say that I called my insurance carrier and had that conversation, and it was the same response. There is no information stating that this will directly increase rates. So I want to be clear that I did some of that same research. I still lean not in favor of this. However, I also want to relay a message from our Pathways Committee. I sit on the Pathways Committee, and generally we are not in support of alcohol consumption on our pathways in the town of Zionsville. The Pathways Committee is one of their items that they're required to do is make recommendations of pathways, routes, locations, and policies. And we will present in the fourth quarter of this year our presentation as soon as we're able to get it on the docket. But I just wanted to make that clear as I see the DORA boundary includes several pathways. I will be voting no on this, and that is generally the reason why. I hope the restaurants and the businesses continue to thrive, and I hope it does well for the community. But I just want to be clear that that's my final little stab at this to get you to understand our perspective of we've been on, the Pathways Committee in general for the last year has been talking about safety, mid-block crosswalks, all these different safety aspects. And then, you know, we don't have any documentation that says this is gonna be an unsafe thing. And I understand that, and I appreciate you presenting that. But that's my final comment on Dora, and I hope you all make it well, make it work.
All right, any other questions for Deputy Mayor? I will say, I tend to agree with Joe in that if we can amend the ordinance or amend the motion to approve it subject to the map from the previous ordinance extending south of 106th Street, there was only one map correction, there were two maps. So I think, and Jared's nodding his head too, there were two maps. One included the Taylor oil field, the other one didn't. So I would personally be in favor of including the one that did not have the Taylor oil, but the one that had.
Included Taylor Oil as well as Creekside Corporate, which was, there was two revisions. Creekside was not included in the very first map that did go below 106. So this would be the middle iteration that included beneath 106 as well as Creekside Corporate.
Okay.
But not Taylor. The
Taylor,
middle one.
Taylor Oil as well. To get to or to get to where we're ending below 106, it includes the Taylor Oil property.
Because of continuity requirements?
Yes.
So we would have to do that.
We have to do it?
Yes.
Why? We can't just cross the street? You have to have a street or something?
Needs to be contiguous, and I think that was the reason for the map being drawn the way it was.
Yep.
So it can't go down, take a sharp, it can't be cut out?
It has to include the parcels that were included in the map. There's been 3 iterations. The initial was from Poplar all the way to 106. There was a request to include Creekside Corporate, so that was included. After last meeting's revisions, there was a request to remove anything below 106, so that was the 3rd iteration.
Well, I remember last meeting that we could say whatever the map was supposed to be verbally, approve that. Could we not? Wasn't that what was said? And also, I've communicated with the owner of the property south of 106th, and he would like to be included. So, just now, I've been texting with him. So we do need to have a different map?
No, the middle iteration, which included parcels below 106, would be comprehensive of the request, unless you're saying there's a property owner beneath that map that was provided.
I'm saying, I thought we were trying to exclude the Taylor property oil, include the 106th and Zionsville Road southeast quadrant.
Jared, if we were gonna do that, the point is, why couldn't the map be extended and it's just the south side of I guess not the south side, but the east side of Zionsville Road without crossing over to the Taylor property on the west side?
Yeah, just
That way you
end at,
capture public house, or just down to where that shopping area is.
Because there's a pathway on the east side of Zionsville Road. So.
Yeah, we could remove the west side of Zionsville Road
You
and make
can,
that jog
correct?
over,
Yeah.
yes.
So I think that would be my personal preference would be that we amend the map as presented here to add the east side of Zionsville Road south of, I don't even know what those were, Old 106th Street. I'm sorry, north of Old 106th Street, right? So bring it down.
South to what road?
South to where Old 106th Street is, right there. And
Right.
then over to Dahlia.
Right.
And that would also include a pathway down to Creekside area. So could we do that in the motion then?
Yes, and just to clarify, would you prefer that the pathway on the west side of the right-of-way be included in the DORA?
The pathway, sure. Yeah.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think if you clarified that subject to a change to Exhibit B, which is the legal description, which we'll have to create that corresponds to this map, and then the change of the map itself.
Okay.
So that would be Exhibit A, the map, and Exhibit B, the legal description.
All right.
As well as C.
And C,
C
yeah.
also indicates the locations for temporary vendors. So A is the door map, B is the legal description, C is the location that depicts where temporary vendors are permitted.
Okay. All right, I'm gonna take a shot at this, and we can continue additional discussion here, but in an effort to make sure we get this motion correct, I would make a motion to approve on final reading ordinance 2024-25, subject to the change in the exhibits A, B, and C as noted in this council meeting, to include the sidewalk on the west side of Zionsville Road extending south of 106th Street to the north side of Old 106th Street over to Dahlia.
East side.
East
Right.
side of Dahlia, correct.
Sidewalk
Did
on
that
the east
sound
side.
right?
You said sidewalk on the west side, sidewalk on the east side
Well,
is what you
but
meant.
we would include them both.
Oh, you
because we-
both?
Because we can have the
Oh, yeah,
sidewalk.
yeah.
But it's west of Dahlia is what he's referring to.
Yeah.
West of
Correct,
Dahlia.
west of Dahlia.
Yeah.
Did I say east of Dahlia?
Yeah.
I think you said north of Dahlia.
That's north.
He said east.
And one quick suggestion, and the amendments
Yeah.
in the revised ordinance.
And the red line, yeah.
And the amendment in the revised ordinance.
Second.
All right. So we've got a first by President Plunkett, a second from Councilor McElderry. Are there any other questions, discussions, anything else that we have here?
I don't
All right.
think so. I just want to make sure Heather's clear that we have the motion the way we need it.
I think we're good.
Okay.
Okay. All right. So all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All those opposed, same sign.
No.
Motion passes 6 in favor, 1 opposed. All right. Up next is new business. There are no new business items. Up next would be other matters. I've got a couple of things to walk through here briefly. As I mentioned early in the meeting, we are going to work on a resolution for the men's golf team as well from Zionsville. You know, again, it's difficult. That was a spring sport, so it's difficult to get all those guys in the room together right now. So maybe that's something we can do over a holiday or in the summertime. There's a couple of ordinances that we're going to continue to rewrite and clean up. One is a sign ordinance. Obviously, we're not going to be able to do that prior to this next election, but I'd like for this council to consider how many signs we want at polling locations.
Political signs,
Political
correct?
signs at polling locations. I know some neighboring communities have limited theirs to 1 or 2. We have not done that yet, so that's something we should consider.
Is it strictly political signs you're looking at,
Yeah.
or an overall sign ordinance?
This would be specific to political signs.
Okay. Can I ask that maybe we look into signage in general?
Sure.
I think there's a deeper thing with signs in the village and across the town of Zionsville that we need to look at. And I would request that we maybe kind of do a little bit of a delve into that, just to make sure that it's being, the ordinance is being cast, you know,
Yeah.
townwide.
No, I think that's great. I think the idea would be from council, anybody that has thoughts or ideas around signage and around these ordinances. You know, it's difficult for staff to enforce. It's difficult for cleanup efforts after elections, like for staff. And so it's just something to keep in mind here. as we go through ordinance rewrite. Another ordinance that I'd like for us to address, Councilor Melton mentioned the Pathways Committee and their requirement to report to the town council. Obviously, you guys will recall earlier this year, we merged a couple of groups together with the Pathways Committee. They're required to give recommendations to the town council. The ordinance is written to require it in the fourth quarter. But I talked in communication with Brad Gressel, and then just thinking through timing of this, obviously recommendations that they would make for 2025 probably should have been included earlier in the year for those considerations, because those dollars are obviously already spoken for. So I'd like for us to consider rewording this ordinance as well to allow for a Q2 or a Q3 presentation so that those priorities can be included and funded in potential future budgets. So we got a lot we're looking at over the rest of this year, specific to ordinances, and cleaning up the language and getting things wrapped up on that end. So I'd like to have as much feedback as possible on those items between now and the end of the year. So
On that same ordinance for the town Pathways Committee, if Heather, maybe you could look at this at some point. You don't have to look at it now, but there is maybe some ambiguity with regards to 5 voting members, 3 members appointed by the town council. Excuse me, it says 3 voting members by the town council, 3 voting members by the mayor, but yet it says 5 voting members and 1 non-voting member. So if we just kind of clean that up and give better understanding, is the counselor that's on there not supposed to vote, et cetera? And I don't think that's the case. I think it's whether it's going to be 5 members or 6 members, plus the staff from the town DPW. So small thing. I appreciate that. That has come up. I will tell you the Pathways Committee is ready to report to this council as soon as you're interested. I will say also, real quick on that same thing, President Plunkett, that though we, this is our initial year of Pathways Committee, so I think presenting at the end, in the fourth quarter like it was initially designed, I don't think it's a horrible thing for the initial one, but if we do it now, what are we going to present you in, the second, third quarter? Not much. But the Pathways Committee has done a very good job of meeting consistently, and we've got a great presentation ready whenever we can get that in front of you as well. So thank you.
That brings up another point I would just reiterate to everybody. Obviously, at the end of the year, we go through appointments and board commissions. Counselors, if there's boards and commissions that you're on now that you'd like to stay on, it'd be important to send that information to myself and Amy, and obviously folks who are serving on boards and commissions now in the public. If you would reach out, let us know if that's still a priority. That would be great. So, anything else from counselors?
We have trick-or-treat hours from 5:30 to 8:30 on Halloween, and hope for everyone to have a safe and fun holiday.
All right. I will make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Second from Counselor Melton. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, same sign. Motion passes 7 in favor, 0 opposed. The next regular town council meeting is scheduled for Monday, November 4th, 2024 at 7 p.m. in the Zionsville Town Hall Council Chambers. Final notice will be posted in compliance with the Indiana Open Door Law.